I never thought a simple Tuesday evening could feel like the world had stopped spinning just for me. The sun had begun its slow descent behind the rooftops of our quiet suburban street in Naperville, painting everything gold and orange, but I didn't notice. I was inside, pacing between the living room and the kitchen, trying to ignore the growing knot of dread twisting in my stomach. My coffee had gone cold an hour ago, and I hadn't even touched it. I couldn't. That's when I saw him. Through the large bay window that overlooked the driveway, there he was leaning casually against my wife's car, arms crossed, sunglasses on even though the sun was low. A slow grin stretched across his face as if the world belonged to him and I was invisible. I froze, the mug slipping from my hand and smashing against the floor, shards scattering like a warning. My heart thumped so hard it felt like it would pierce my chest. He didn't move, didn't wave, didn't acknowledge me at all, just waited, patient, confident, calculating. Every inch of his presence screamed intrusion, but more than that, it screamed violation. That was my home, my driveway, my life, and he had planted himself right in the center of it. For a moment, I convinced myself I was hallucinating. Maybe it was the stress, maybe the exhaustion from work, maybe my mind was playing cruel tricks. But no, there was no mistaking the shine of the car, the familiar cut of his jeans, the way he casually tapped his fingers on the hood. I knew him, I knew this man. I had seen him in the office once or twice years ago, a charming, handsome, reckless guy. I never thought I'd see him here, in front of my house, acting like he had every right to be. I pressed my forehead to the cool glass, trying to steady my breathing. My wife had said she was meeting a friend for coffee, and I had thought nothing of it. But now, as I watched him casually lean back, texting on his phone, that friend seemed like a lie. I could feel the tension in my chest tighten into a fist. Every instinct screamed at me to go outside, confront him, make him leave, but something froze me in place. I remembered the first time I'd fallen in love with her. Her laugh, the way her eyes lit up when she talked about something she cared about, the gentle hand she placed over mine in the middle of a crowded cafe. I remembered promising her that I would protect her, keep her safe, always. And now I was standing inside my own house, and some stranger had claimed a piece of our life like it was nothing. I didn't notice at first, but my hands were trembling. I gripped the window frame, knuckles white, trying to steady the shaking. My mind raced. Did she know he would be here? Did she invite him? The thought made bile rise in my throat. I had always trusted her, maybe too much. But something in the way he waited, so relaxed, so certain, told me that this wasn't accidental. He wasn't just visiting. He was here for her. I stepped back from the window, trying to think. I could call her, text her, ask where she was, but I couldn't. Every option felt wrong, weak. I wanted to confront this moment head-on. I wanted to step outside and demand answers, even if it destroyed me. And then the sound of her car pulling into the driveway hit me like a punch. My heart stopped entirely. I turned back to the window and saw her step out of her car, casual, smiling. The way she walked toward him, her body language open, warm, familiar, it felt like a dagger slicing through me. She didn't glance my way. She didn't acknowledge me once. It was as if I didn't exist at all. I felt a sharp sting in my chest, and for a moment I wanted to scream. My entire life had led to this moment, the years of working, building a home, making her laugh, comforting her when she cried. And now, in the span of a few seconds, someone else was slipping into the space I thought was ours. I was a stranger in my own house. I stepped outside, my bare feet brushing against the cool concrete of the driveway. The air was thick, almost heavy, charged with tension. The man looked up and his eyes locked with mine. A slow, amused smile played on his lips. Not fear, not hesitation, just amusement. "Evening," he said, his voice smooth, deliberate, almost mocking. "I didn't expect to see you here." I wanted to spit words that would cut through him like knives. I wanted to tell him to leave, to get out of my life, to erase him from this moment. But my throat tightened, words caught in the grip of shock and anger. I forced out a strained, "What are you doing here?" He tilted his head slightly, still smiling. "Waiting," he said simply, as if the answer were obvious. "She said she'd meet me." I could feel my hands clenching into fists at my sides. "Waiting," she said she'd meet him. The words repeated in my head like a cruel echo. Waiting, meeting, laughing, smiling, all without me. The thought of what they might share, the conversations, the laughs, the moments I would never be part of, it tore at something deep inside me. And yet, I didn't step back. I didn't run. Something in me hardened. A part of me whispered, "You can't lose this quietly. You can't let this happen without standing up for yourself." I took a deep breath, trying to steady my voice. "She's coming inside, now." The man raised his eyebrows, still smirking. "That's unfortunate," he said lightly, almost teasingly. I felt my chest tighten. I wanted to yell, to scream, to shatter him with words, but I knew something. The confrontation wasn't just about him. It was about her, about the choice she was making right in front of me. The betrayal wasn't just a secret hidden in whispers or texts. It was here, in the open, and I would face it. Footsteps echoed behind me. I turned, and there she was, my wife, smiling at him, oblivious to the storm brewing in my chest. That smile, the one I had loved for years, now felt like a weapon aimed straight at me. And in that moment, I realized the truth. My life, as I knew it, was breaking apart right there on my driveway. Her smile lingered as she approached him, and something inside me cracked. I could feel every heartbeat like a hammer against my ribs. My hands itched to grab her, to pull her away, to remind her who I was, but I didn't. I stood frozen, rooted to the driveway, a silent witness to a betrayal unfolding in slow motion. "Hey," she said, her voice light, casual. The way she said it, I could tell she knew exactly how he would respond. "Sorry I'm late." "Don't worry about it," he replied, his grin widening. "I had time." They laughed lightly, easily, the kind of laugh that used to belong to me. That laugh was mine. We had shared it over dinners, late-night drives, quiet moments on the couch, and now it belonged to him. I tried to force myself to focus on something, anything, to regain control. I wanted to demand explanations. I wanted to scream at her, at him, at the universe itself. But the words stuck in my throat, heavy and sharp. Instead, I just stood there, watching as my life unraveled right before my eyes. "Come on," she said, touching his arm lightly. "Let's get inside before it gets dark." Inside. Inside my house, my home, where I had imagined raising our children, growing old together, making memories, and now it was a stage for someone else's intrusion. I clenched my fists so hard that my nails dug into my palms, leaving crescent-shaped marks that burned. He looked at me then, briefly, his eyes calculating. I could feel the weight of his gaze, the silent challenge. "This is mine now. What are you going to do about it?" I wanted to answer, to fight, to reclaim even a shred of what was mine, but the anger bubbled beneath the surface, unformed, ready to explode. My wife reached for the door, and I felt the urge to grab her arm, to stop her, to demand she explain herself. But I didn't. I let her pass. When the door closed behind them, a silence fell over the driveway, heavy and suffocating. I remained outside, breathing in the cool evening air, my mind racing faster than I could process. The streetlights flickered on, casting long shadows over the cracked concrete. My neighborhood was peaceful, quiet, but nothing felt peaceful anymore. I sank onto the porch step, resting my elbows on my knees. I felt like I was watching my life through someone else's eyes. Every memory of her, every promise we had made, every laugh we had shared, it all felt tainted now. And worse, I couldn't stop replaying the image of them together, laughing, leaning into each other, the casual intimacy I had once thought only existed between us. I remembered the first time she had confided in me about her fears, her dreams, the things she never told anyone else. I had held her hand and promised to protect her, to never let anyone hurt her. And now, I felt like I had failed. Not in some abstract, vague way, but in the most real, raw, physical sense. Right there on my own porch, I had failed. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time had lost all meaning. I didn't move. I didn't breathe consciously. I just existed in the storm of emotions that raged inside me: anger, fear, betrayal, heartbreak, confusion. Then I heard it, the faint click of the door opening. They were back outside. My heart jumped, my fists clenched. I wasn't ready. I didn't want to see her, to see them, to confront what I knew was coming. But there was no choice. She stepped onto the porch first, smiling, holding a takeaway coffee cup. He followed behind, still smirking, the picture of confidence. My stomach twisted. "Hey," she said softly, looking at me for the first time since this began. Her smile faltered just slightly, but it was enough to ignite something in me. We just needed to talk. Talk, the word tasted bitter. Talk. After standing there in my driveway, after ignoring me completely, after everything, I wanted to ask her how she could do this, how she could betray me so openly. I wanted to scream at her, to shake her until she remembered who I was. But I stayed seated, forcing myself to breathe. He spoke first. "Don't worry, man," he said, his tone casual, mocking. "She made it clear, I'm not hiding anything." Made it clear? The words were a slap across my face. I felt blood rush to my ears, my vision narrowing as anger mixed with disbelief. He was not just here. He was claiming territory, staking a claim on something that had always been mine. "Why?" I asked finally, my voice low, raw, trembling. Why would you do this?" They exchanged a glance, quick, loaded, silent, the kind that spoke volumes without a single word. And in that glance, I saw the truth I had dreaded. She wanted this. She wanted him. My legs gave out beneath me, and I sank lower onto the step, feeling a wave of dizziness. I had always imagined betrayal as something whispered, hidden, secret, but this was a public display. Right here, on my own driveway, under the fading sun and flickering streetlights. I don't understand," I whispered, my hands gripping the edges of the step. I thought we were happy." They laughed softly, almost conspiratorially. My heart shattered into a million tiny pieces. That laugh was no longer mine to share. That laugh belonged to him. "Happy," she said, tilting her head, smiling faintly. "Maybe we were, but things change." Things change? How cruel the words sounded in my ears. How simple, how dismissive. The years we had spent together, the promises we had made, the life we had built, all gone in 2 words. Things change. I felt the world tilt beneath me. My vision blurred, tears burning the edges of my eyes. Rage surged, hot and blinding, and I wanted to lash out, to hurt, to take revenge, to make them feel the devastation they had caused me. But even in that moment, I knew something. I couldn't let them see me break. Not yet. I stood slowly, legs trembling, eyes locked on him. I wanted him to feel the weight of my presence, the force of the man who had been wronged. I wanted him to understand that this wasn't over, that no matter what they wanted, I wouldn't vanish quietly. "I don't know what you think you're doing," I said finally, my voice low but steady, "but you're not taking what's mine without a fight." He smirked, that same infuriating, confident smirk, as if he hadn't a care in the world. "We'll see about that," he said, and in his eyes I saw the challenge, the arrogance, the certainty that I could never match. And for the first time that evening, I felt something else, something sharp, fierce, alive. Revenge, determination. The fire of a man who refused to be erased from his own life. I didn't know how this night would end. I didn't know how my marriage would survive if it could. But one thing was clear. Nothing would ever be the same again. The evening air had grown colder, a biting chill crawling through my hoodie and sinking into my bones. I could feel it on my skin, but it was nothing compared to the icy weight pressing on my chest. I watched him lean casually against my car again, as if the world belonged to him and I was a ghost. My hands were shaking, but this time not just from shock. This time it was fueled by something darker. Fury, hurt, and a need for answers I wasn't sure I wanted to hear. She took a step closer to me, her face soft, almost pleading, but that softness felt like a lie. The warmth I once felt in her presence had vanished, replaced with a strange distance. My stomach knotted as she spoke. "Please, don't make this harder than it needs to be." Harder than it needs to be? My mind screamed, "You're standing here with him in my driveway." But I swallowed my anger, forcing my voice to remain calm, though every word trembled with the storm inside me. "Harder than it needs to be? You do realize I've been standing right here, watching you, while he acts like he owns this place." Her gaze shifted to him, briefly, and then back to me. That glance, quick, loaded, and casual, was enough to confirm my worst fear. She wasn't scared. She wasn't conflicted. She wanted this. He chuckled softly, a sound that grated against my nerves like sandpaper. "I don't think it's about making it harder or easier," he said, finally breaking his silent composure. "I think it's about being honest. She wanted me here. I didn't force anything." The words hit me like a punch. Wanted me here. She wanted him here. Every fiber of my being trembled with betrayal. I could feel my knees weaken and my hands curled into fists at my sides. For years, I had believed in loyalty, in love, in trust. All of it felt like a cruel joke now. I stepped closer, my voice rising, though I tried to keep it measured. "You think honesty excuses this? You think standing in my driveway, treating my home like your playground, is acceptable because you claim she wanted you here?" He shrugged, completely unfazed. It's not about being acceptable, it's about reality. She's made her choice. That single phrase, she's made her choice, cut deeper than anything else. My vision blurred slightly, a mix of rage and disbelief threatening to overwhelm me. I remembered every late night we had spent together, every promise whispered in the dark, every plan we had made for the future. And now, it all meant nothing. Choice, I repeated, my voice shaking. You call this a choice, walking into someone's home, mocking them, and acting like the man of the house. She flinched at my words, a small, almost imperceptible motion. It was enough to make my chest ache. I realized then that she wasn't even denying it. She wasn't apologizing. She wasn't trying to explain. She just existed in the moment, standing next to him, smiling softly, as if my fury was inconsequential. I swallowed hard, forcing myself to breathe. The rage inside me was a living thing, coiling, writhing, demanding action. But I had to be careful. I couldn't let it consume me entirely, yet. Not here. Not now. I had to watch, to learn, to understand how this had come to be. Why? I finally asked, my voice low, almost a whisper, but heavy with everything I had been holding in. Why him? Why not me? She looked away, briefly, then back at him. Because I don't know if it was ever really about you, she said softly. Her words were like ice shards sliding into my chest, piercing deep and refusing to leave. I felt my entire world tilt. The betrayal wasn't just about action, it was about intention. She had stopped seeing me as the person she wanted to share her life with. That realization felt like a blow to my very soul. I don't understand, I stammered. We were happy, we laughed, my voice caught in my throat. We built a life together, and now you just erase all of it. He shook his head, almost casually, his smirk unwavering. Erasing isn't the point. Moving forward is. She wants something different. You can either accept it or be left behind. The arrogance in his tone made something inside me ignite. I could feel the fire spreading through my veins, hot and blinding, consuming everything else. I wanted to strike him, to scream, to make him feel the pain he was causing me. But I didn't. Not yet. I needed something stronger, something that would leave no doubt that I wasn't going to vanish quietly. I stepped back, taking a deep breath, forcing myself to calm down, even as the rage continued to simmer. My mind raced, plotting, calculating. This wasn't over. I didn't know how it would end, but I knew one thing: I wouldn't let them take everything without a fight. She reached for his hand, a small, casual touch that felt like a knife twisting deeper into my chest. Come on, she said softly. Let's go inside. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw myself between them. I wanted to drag her back into reality, to remind her who I was, to make her remember the life we shared. But instead, I did the hardest thing I've ever done. I stayed. I watched. He followed her inside, and the door clicked shut. Silence fell over the driveway again, but it was a different kind of silence this time. It wasn't empty. It was heavy, thick with the promise of confrontation yet to come. I sank onto the step again, my head in my hands. The cool night air did nothing to soothe the fire burning in my chest. I thought about the years we had spent together, the laughter, the love, the dreams we had built. And now it was all shattered. But amidst the devastation, a single thought crystallized in my mind: I was not finished. Not yet. They may have believed this was their victory, but I had something they didn't. The truth, the evidence, and the resolve of a man who refuses to be erased from his own life. I didn't know what the night would bring. I didn't know if I would speak, scream, fight, or simply walk away. But I knew one thing with absolute certainty: whatever happened, I would not allow them to win. The stars overhead flickered to life, pale points of light in the darkening sky. They seemed indifferent to my pain, indifferent to the betrayal, indifferent to the fury that burned through me. And yet, they reminded me of something essential. Life moves forward, even when you feel broken. And I would move forward too. Night had fully fallen now, and the streetlights cast a dim, almost haunting glow across the driveway. Shadows stretched long and thin, curling around the edges of the house, as if the darkness itself were conspiring with the betrayal that had unfolded. I remained on the porch, seated but alert, every muscle taut, listening to the faint sounds of movement inside. It wasn't just the sound of footsteps. It was the laughter, the low voices, the soft hum of intimacy that once belonged exclusively to me. Each sound was like a hammer striking against the walls of my heart. I forced myself to breathe, counting silently to 10, trying to maintain some shred of control. But it was impossible. The fury, the heartbreak, the betrayal, they were all raw, unfiltered, and rising with every passing second. I stood slowly, brushing off my jeans, my mind sharpening, focusing on what I needed to do. This wasn't just about witnessing their betrayal anymore. It was about confronting it, exposing it, reclaiming what was mine. Not in violence, not in chaos, but in truth, in clarity, in the kind of decisive action that left no room for doubt. I walked to my garage, the concrete cold under my bare feet. My fingers brushed over the cool metal of the door and I paused, taking a deep breath. Inside, I knew I had everything I needed: evidence, proof, memories, and the recordings I had kept over the past months. I had suspected her, I had doubted, and in quiet, private moments, I had documented everything: texts, calls, small details that now painted a devastating picture. The thought that had been simmering inside me for hours crystallized into something sharp and precise. I wouldn't be a victim. Not tonight. Not ever. I retrieved my phone, checking the small screen to make sure it was ready. I scrolled through the messages, the photos, the recordings, every piece of undeniable evidence that proved what had been happening behind my back. My chest tightened, a mix of triumph and anguish, knowing that the confrontation to come wouldn't be about anger alone. It would be about truth. Then I heard the front door creak open. I didn't look up immediately. I waited, heart hammering, listening. Footsteps approached the porch. Soft, deliberate, measured. I felt their presence before I saw them. "He's still out here," she said, her voice casual, almost teasing. "What are you doing?" I looked up slowly, holding my phone in one hand, evidence in the other. My eyes met hers and I saw a flicker, just a flicker, of something I hadn't seen all evening: uncertainty. Fear, maybe even regret. "I'm done standing in silence," I said, my voice calm but sharp. "It's time we all face the truth." He stepped forward, his smirk faltering slightly at the tone in my voice. "What do you mean?" he asked, though the arrogance lingered, still thick in the air. I tapped the screen, showing him the messages, the photos, the evidence of their secret meetings, the texts she had tried to hide. His eyes flickered, just for a moment, and I saw a crack in the mask he wore so well. "This is the truth," I said, turning my gaze back to her. "Everything you've been hiding, everything you've been pretending, it's all here, and it ends tonight." She swallowed, her lips pressed into a thin line. For the first time, I saw hesitation, a shift in her demeanor. The confidence, the casual arrogance, the playful smirk, it was all fading, and I felt something inside me stir, a renewed sense of power, clarity, and control. "You think showing me this changes anything?" he said finally, his voice tight, controlled. "She wanted this. Don't pretend you're the victim here." "I'm not pretending," I said, my voice growing stronger, more deliberate. "I am the victim of betrayal, yes, but I am not powerless. Not now, not ever." Her eyes widened slightly, and I caught a flash of guilt, of fear, of realization. "You don't understand," she whispered, almost to herself. "I understand perfectly," I said, stepping closer, holding the phone out so they could both see. "I understand that you chose him over me. I understand that our life meant nothing to you. And I understand that this moment, the deceit, the lies, the betrayal ends now, one way or another." The air between us was taut, vibrating with tension. I could see him calculating, measuring, trying to determine if he could intimidate me, if he could force me into retreat. But he couldn't. I wasn't afraid. Not anymore. "You can't just," he began, but I cut him off. "I can," I said firmly, "and I will." The moment stretched, silent, heavy, until she finally spoke. "Please, don't ruin everything," she pleaded. "We can fix this, just please." "Fix this," I repeated, my voice low and cold. "After standing here, laughing, touching him, inviting him into my home, after erasing me from your life while pretending everything was normal, you think there's a fix." Tears welled in my eyes, not from weakness, but from the intensity of the betrayal. Every memory, every promise, every whispered declaration of love, it all collided in that moment, explosive, consuming. He took a step closer, attempting to assert dominance, but I didn't flinch. I raised my hand slightly, not in violence but as a warning. "One more step, and you'll see exactly how serious I am." For the first time, he hesitated. I saw the smirk falter, the confidence waver. And I realized then that I had the upper hand. Not because I was stronger, not because I was cleverer, but because I had clarity. I had truth. I had reality on my side. She stepped back, uncertainty shadowing her features. I didn't think you knew, she said softly. I know everything, I replied. And now, you will see what it feels like to be confronted with the truth. The night had fallen fully, dark and silent, except for the soft hum of streetlights and the distant echo of traffic. In that darkness, standing on my driveway, I felt alive in a way I hadn't in years, not because of anger alone, but because of a resolve that no betrayal could destroy. I took a deep breath, the chill of the evening filling my lungs, and knew that the next moments would define everything. Tonight, the choices would be revealed. Tonight, the truths would come to light. And tonight, the story of betrayal, confrontation, and the fight for what was mine would reach a crescendo. The night was silent except for the faint hum of the streetlights. I stood on my driveway, phone in hand, evidence ready, heart pounding like a drum in my chest. Everything I had felt, everything I had feared had led to this moment. I could feel it, the tension thick enough to slice through the cool air. She took a step forward, hesitating, her eyes wide, lips trembling. Please don't do this, she whispered. Her voice was soft, fragile, almost pleading, but I could hear the layers beneath it. Fear, guilt, maybe even regret. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. The phone in my hand told the story better than words ever could. Every text, every photo, every hidden meeting, it was all there. Unvarnished, undeniable. And I could see it in their eyes as they looked at it. The truth. His confident smirk faltered, cracking ever so slightly. He took a step back, the arrogance replaced with calculation, trying to assess the situation. I could see him realizing that the control he thought he had, the power he thought he wielded, was slipping. And I relished that moment, not for revenge, not for satisfaction, but because justice had a way of arriving quietly, without theatrics. You have all this, he said finally, his voice tight, almost incredulous. I nodded, my chest tight, my voice steady. I have everything. And now, you know exactly what it feels like to be exposed, to be confronted with the consequences of your choices. She flinched and took a step back, her eyes filling with tears. I didn't mean. But I cut her off, my voice low, deliberate, heavy with emotion. You didn't mean? Is that supposed to justify standing here with him while pretending our life meant nothing, pretending I didn't exist? Silence fell. The night seemed to hold its breath. The air was thick, heavy, and sharp. I could feel the tension stretching between us like a taut wire, ready to snap at any moment. I stepped closer, letting the reality of my presence, my pain, and my truth settle over them. I trusted you, I said, voice breaking slightly, though I tried to control it. I believed in us. I believed in you, and you chose him, over everything we built. She sobbed softly, the sound tearing through me like glass. But still, she reached for his arm, a reflex I hated with every fiber of my being. I clenched my fists, drawing on the raw intensity of heartbreak and betrayal. Don't, I said sharply. Don't reach for him, not tonight, not while you're standing here knowing what you've done. He looked at me then, really looked, and for the first time I saw fear. Not the fear of physical confrontation, but the fear of exposure, the fear of being outmaneuvered. I realized that his confidence, his smirk, his arrogance, they were all a mask that I had just torn off. You think this changes anything? He said finally, voice shaking slightly. Yes, I replied firmly. It changes everything, because the truth is out, because your lies, your betrayal, they can't hide anymore, and because I'm not letting anyone erase me from my own life without consequence. Her tears fell freely now, her mascara smudging across her cheeks. She opened her mouth to speak, but I held up my hand, stopping her. No more excuses, no more explanations. The story is over. The choice is yours. I could see the weight of reality settling on them, the realization that nothing would be easy, nothing would be the same. That every action, every decision from this point on, would be under the harsh light of truth. And then, as if the universe itself had been waiting for this exact moment, the air shifted. I felt a sense of clarity, a sense of power that had nothing to do with revenge or anger. It was the power of self-respect, of dignity reclaimed, of a life that refused to be defined by someone else's betrayal. I took a step back, letting the silence envelop us. "I'm done fighting shadows and illusions," I said quietly, but with unwavering conviction. "I'm done standing in the dark while someone else decides my life for me. This ends now." They both froze, the weight of my words settling over them. He swallowed hard, finally looking down at the ground. She pressed a hand to her lips, tears streaming down, the realization clear in her eyes that our life had shifted irreversibly. "You'll regret this," he said finally, his voice low, almost bitter. "Maybe," I replied, my gaze steady, "but I won't regret standing up for myself." For the first time all evening, I felt the storm inside me ease slightly, replaced by a fierce, resolute calm. I wasn't sure what would come next: divorce, confrontation, rebuilding. But I knew one thing: I would face it on my own terms, with strength, with courage, and with the certainty that I refused to be diminished by betrayal. She looked at me then, a mixture of guilt, sadness, and something I couldn't name. I never thought." "Don't speak," I said softly. "Tonight, words are meaningless. Actions have already spoken." I turned toward the street, feeling the cool night air on my face. The lights of the neighborhood were faint, distant, but clear enough to remind me that life continued outside the boundaries of this driveway, outside the walls of betrayal and heartbreak. I felt a strange relief, even amidst the pain. Relief because I had confronted the truth. Relief because I had not let them dictate my reaction. Relief because I realized that even in betrayal, there was a path forward, a path where I could reclaim my life, my dignity, my identity. They watched me from the doorway, silent, uncertain. I didn't glance back. I didn't need to. The victory wasn't in punishment or revenge. It was in presence, in resilience, in the unwavering assertion that I would not be erased. I took one last breath, feeling the weight of the night, the sting of heartbreak, and the fire of determination all at once. And then, slowly, deliberately, I stepped off the porch, onto the cool concrete, and walked toward the street. Away from betrayal, toward a life that was mine to define. I didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but I knew this. I had survived the worst night of my life, faced the ultimate betrayal, and emerged with my integrity intact. And that was more powerful than any act of revenge could ever be. The driveway, the house, the shadows, they all remained behind me. But I carried forward something no betrayal could steal: myself. Tonight, the story ended, not with screams, not with chaos, but with a quiet, unshakable strength. The story ended with a man reclaiming his life from the edges of heartbreak and betrayal, refusing to be defined by the actions of others. And in that reclamation, I found something I hadn't felt in a long time: peace.